Here, it's time for another installment of Martial Law, this radio program intended for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law constantly changes. The information may not be complete or correct depending on the date, your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of these differences, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. He is Marshall Chriswell. He joins us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you back with us today.
Nice to be here.
All right, so last time we talked a little bit about real estate, and I thought that we might expand that conversation again because there are specific reasons people should probably be seeking out a real estate attorney or an attorney experienced in real estate issues right at the start of the entire process. Are there not?
Absolutely, and it's a timely topic. You know, we're making our way through the busiest part of the home buying season right now. So this is a question that's coming up for a lot of people. That you're buying a home, whether it's a home or a commercial property or whatever kind of real estate it is. You get to the point where the bank the realtor says, "Hey, who's going to handle closing for you?" And you have a decision to make. Is it going to be an attorney or sometimes you're recommended to something called a title company. And so you have a decision to make about whether you want an attorney to handle this transaction. And it is really important that you have an experienced real estate attorney to do this for you for lots of reasons. But really, the number one reason is that you want to ensure, above all else, that you are getting good title, good clean title to the property. Whenever that deed is delivered, handed over, transferred to you, that there are not going to be any issues that are going to come back to bite you, whether it's a week, a month, a year, 10 years down the road.
Okay, good clean title was the phrase that you used there. What are some of the issues that can come up with a title?
All kinds of issues. So as an attorney, whenever I'm reviewing title for a potential buyer, I'm doing, generally the industry standard is a 60-year title search. So I'm looking at the chain of title, every single document on the record for that property, ensuring that first of all, the chain of title is intact. So all of the, if you go back and you see all the conveyances that the proper grantors and grantees signed, you've got to look at the issues get complex. I mean, if there was a corporation that owned the property or an LLC, did the proper owners assign for it? All kinds of things. Just with that's the first step is the chain of title intact, and then are there any clouds, liens, judgments out there that could affect the title that you're getting? Unpaid real estate taxes, unpaid inheritance taxes on old estates. Mm-hmm. Something that's come up many times in my practice that we've been able to resolve are old unpaid mortgages. Sometimes title is transferred and the mortgage is usually it's paid and it was just unsatisfied by the bank. It was not placed of record that was paid. The bank forgot to do that in the courthouse records. Mm-hmm. So it still shows that there's an old unpaid mortgage on the property. You've got to go back. You've got to get that fixed one way or the other. Sometimes those banks are now defunct. You know how banks are bought and sold all the time. Yeah. So you've got to get that resolved, whether it be with a court action or going back and finding the bank someone authorized to sign for that. So there are all sorts of things that can affect the title that you're getting, and ultimately your security in your home, but also your ability to convey, your ability to convey good title later when you want to sell the place, and that's when those problems rear their ugly heads.
Yeah. How often, or does it ever happen, that there are handshake agreements, there are promises? Dad promised me I could have this much of the property and my sister gets this much, or things like that complicate matters. Does that happen?
There are. Now, if those were something that were off the record, then generally they're not an issue because for the title to real estate, generally you're just looking at the documents on the record. But certainly there can be issues. say, a rent-to-own agreement. Sometimes you'll see that someone's agreed to do a rent-to-own agreement, potential buyer, they paid on it for a while, and then maybe they defaulted and they're gone. But there's still a document on the record showing that there was a rent-to-own or an installment agreement in place at one time, and it was never cleaned up. I've had that issue.
Rent-to-own agreements, people frequently try to just do them by themselves, don't they?
They do. That's
a bad idea.
There are, if you go on Google and you type in rent-to-own agreement, you're going to get a million different potential, forms there that supposedly are doing what you need it to do. I regularly get contacted from clients with rent-to-own agreements, and a lot of times they're sending me a form and saying, "Oh, okay, this is what we think we need. Can you just take a look at it and tell us that it's good?"
Yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to work, is it?
It's not. And 9 times out of 10, I'm saying, no, let's just scrap that. Let me draft you an agreement that's actually going to work for what you need. You see these agreements that are, well, they're from all over the country, so they incorporate laws of different states. They don't have sufficient provisions for default. What happens if somebody doesn't pay the rent for a month or two? What happens then? All kinds of things that aren't properly set forth in that agreement. Also, warranties for good title to the property and what's going to happen with closing costs whenever the property is actually conveyed at the end of this rent-to-own agreement. All kinds of things that you just you need to have set forth in detail so everybody has certainty about what's happening moving forward.
I mentioned at the beginning of this segment timeliness in bringing in the attorney. Driving by and you see the sign for sale by owner or whatever it might be, and you decide to stop and take a look at the property. And you look around and you decide, this is pretty nice. I like this. That's not too soon, is it, to get the attorney involved?
Particularly, and you said for sale by owner.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, of course, for sale by owner more and more often. It used to be that almost every real estate sale outside of something that was informal or a family agreement, almost everything was handled by a realtor. Now there are, with the internet and social media, there are more marketing opportunities for folks to sell their own houses. And so if you have a for sale by owner, whether you're the buyer or the seller, you want a real estate attorney involved from the ground up. I mean, from the very beginning, because they need to be, we would need to be drafting that agreement, negotiating the terms of the sale, the contingencies of the sale, whether there are going to be inspections or mortgage contingencies, appraisal contingencies, all those kinds of things. And a good real estate attorney also has connections within the community to say, okay, these are the other professionals that we need to get involved as far as financing and inspections and things like that. So it's a really good idea. You're right, from the beginning to have an attorney involved.
Do it yourself is probably not the best approach in any respect when you're dealing with real estate.
That's right.
I want to talk about securing the financing because that's a mystery to a lot of people when they say, I see the property, I like the property, I'm going to buy the property, I'm just going to go down to the bank, I'm going to get a loan on the property. It's not that simple, is it?
It's not. You need to be prepared that it's going to be a process. No matter what bank you use, there are so many requirements, very strict requirements for, an applicant's credit and income and the documentation that the bank is going to need to approve someone for a loan. And you go through a series of pre-approval and conditional approval, and then finally you get to this final approval. So it is a process, and also depending on what type of loan you're securing, if it's a conventional loan or an FHA loan or a USDA loan or a VA loan, so many different types.
Yeah.
And they all have their different requirements. So as an attorney, as I, not a banker, but as an attorney, I've become familiar with those different types of loans, and can kind of walk you through as far as, okay, this is the kind of loan you're going after. You really should expect X, Y, and Z as far as requirements and the time that's going to be, how much of a delay you can expect and those things.
When you were first handling real estate law and you were just getting your feet wet, take me back to that time, to the Marshall Chriswell we see before us now, who has all this experience with it. Is it a great learning curve for an attorney?
It is. It's important as an attorney getting started out that you have good mentors. I had other attorneys that I was able to bring on as mentors to gain that experience and knowledge. But there is a learning curve, and it's important that you hire someone that has some experience. And you'll know, sitting down and talking to someone about the process. An experienced attorney is going to really be able to tell you what's going to happen every step of the way, and also let you know that nothing, especially with real estate transactions, is entirely predictable. In almost every deal, there's a hiccup somewhere. There's something. There are very few real estate deals that everything just goes exactly as it should, and we're closing on the exact day and time we said we were going to be, and everything's hunky-dory. There's usually some hiccup that we've got to work our way through. Yeah,
there's always an issue. I would guess title is one of those great stumbling blocks for a lot of people.
It can be, and just there are all kinds of things that you don't think of. And I know we're running out of time, so I won't get into a bunch of war stories. But there's always something, and you need someone with some experience that can navigate those issues quickly and get you to where you want to be.
All right, you're the guy for that. People want to know more, learn about you, or use your services. What do they need to do?
You can always stop into the Atrium Building in downtown Indiana and see us there. Or call me at 724-465-5826. And you can go online to www.westernpalawyer.com.